In ambivalent stories, the situation the protagonist is in must be one that they can't resolve, even if they stick to their guns. So in Amour, it's George's and Anne's old age and the deteriorating condition that facilitates the inevitable outcome. Now, to deliver an ambivalent ending, you need to have the internal positive lead to an external negative. And also, you need to have the internal negative lead to an external positive. So what do I mean by that? So I'll use George as an example. George's internal positive is to keep his promise to Anne, but it results in Anne's suffering, which is an external negative. The internal negative is to break his promise and betray Anne, but it would result in easing her suffering, which is an external positive. So it's a moral conundrum, is really how we're setting up and maintaining and creating the option to have an ambivalent story arc. Now, when I think about other movies with ambivalent endings that we have studied in the podcast to date, I think back to Promising Young Woman, Can You Ever Forgive Me?, Lost in Translation, Manchester by the Sea, Gone Baby Gone, The Banshees of Inisherin, and also August Osage County. Now, most of these stories also have constant characters as the protagonists. And Amour won the Palme d'Or, a BAFTA, and a Golden Globe. So, constant characters with ambivalent story arcs are another commercially viable story choice you have if you want to tell a realistic and grittier type of story. So I also think that these types of stories lend themselves to more complex and interesting protagonists. All right, so I'm just going to leave that there for people to think about. All right, Valerie, I know that you also found this a really tough movie to watch, but how did you go with the speech in praise of the villain?
Well, Melanie, I have to come clean here. It was a tough movie to watch, and therefore I only watched it once. Usually when I'm preparing for an episode, I watch the movie 2 or 3 times. But this one is very sad and very heavy, especially with the particular week that I had in my personal life this week. So I couldn't do it more than once. So I watched it through once, and I did go back and rewatch certain sections. So with that said, let me dive into the speech in praise of the villain. Now, the whole point of this bit of theory is to let the reader know that the antagonist is formidable. And the antagonist must be formidable. Otherwise, you don't have a plot. So the antagonist or the force of antagonism must be bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, richer, must somehow have an advantage over the protagonist. Now, the in praise bit is a bit of a misnomer, to be honest. This is not about saying how great the villain is in a good way. Also, the word speech is problematic because while it can be a speech, it doesn't have to be. And it can be delivered by any of the characters. So, how does this speech, which isn't a speech, in praise, which is not really praise, of the villain, play out in Amour? Well, this is a very subtle film. It is filled with nuance and shades of gray. This is the kind of story that many writers, especially those who are writing memoir, want to tell. Now, while it can certainly be done, Amour has done it, I have to say that the writing in this movie is extremely advanced. This is not beginner level writing. It really isn't. So can you do it? Sure. Can you run a marathon? Sure. But if you're a couch potato and you want to run a marathon, you got to take it one step at a time. Otherwise, you probably won't finish the marathon. And if you do, you're probably going to injure yourself. So if you're working on your first novel, or if you've never written a book before and you want to write your memoir, and your goal is to write something like Amour, which uh, is a beautiful film, but also equally heartbreaking. I can see why someone would watch this and say, I want to tell a story like this. Absolutely, I can see that. If that is your aim, just understand where your starting point is and understand that if this is your end point, it is it's a long way down the road. This is masterful writing after years and years and years of honing the craft. If you want to do it, great. I just want you to understand what it is you're signing on to.